Hello, my name is Aaron Cavanagh and I'm the founder and editor-in-chief of Post-Burnout.com. Post-Burnout.com is a culture website dedicated to venerating burnt-out artists the world over. This is our website's podcast where we publish full-length recordings of our interviews, which are sometimes the unedited versions of our site's articles and at other times are exclusives. If you're a returning listener, thank you for coming back, and if this is your first time listening, thank you for checking us out. We hope you enjoy and consider subscribing, giving the episodes a thumbs up if you're on YouTube, or giving it a rating if you're anywhere else. It really helps us out. Thank you. In this edition of PostBurnout.com interviews, the Belfast composer and songwriter Conn Thornton discusses their career, their proliferation of material, their latest album Meteorite Season, their upcoming EP When Bethesda Lands They'll Throw Us a Parade, its themes and lead single The Ballad of McKinley Park, the influence of Greta Gerwig on their work, and much more. On August 8, Conn Thornton will perform a headline show at the Hustle Cafe in Belfast with support from Anthony Layeth. The following day, on August 9th, they'll perform at the OEM Music Centre as part of the Belfast Trans Pride fundraiser for 2025. Tickets for both of those events are available in the description of this episode. Thank you very much and enjoy. Hey Conn, can you hear me okay?
Yes. Hello. There I go.
How are you?
Yeah, I am absolutely grand. How are you doing?
I'm fine too. It's really nice to meet you. I'll try not to take up too much of your time. I've said that a
No,
lot.
yeah, no, absolutely.
Well,
No, you're grand, don't worry.
look, life is precious. You don't need to waste it talking to me. Oh, I see the Neon Genesis Evangelion t-shirt. It reminds me of the first time I watched that show and had depression all summer.
Yeah, yeah. I got this at there was like a gig that I did that was also like a clothes swap. And it was like a charity gig, and I was like, well, if I'm not getting paid for this, I'm taking the Evangelion shirt.
That's fair. That is actually fair compensation. I think that's better than a lot of monetary compensation.
Best payment I ever got for a gig in my life.
I'm sorry. I'm really ADHD. I'm just looking at all the shit in your room. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no, you're grand. You're grand. Like,
I have to now. Okay, this is a weird note to start the interview off on, but
mhm.
do you like the end of Evangelion?
Yeah, I mean, it's like one of my favorite films. So
See,
I
remember they did the Prime video, like on Amazon Prime, they did
I
the
the
series.
rebuilds, yeah.
I think I watched one. I watched 1.1, and then I was like, I'll get to the rest later, and I never did.
Mm.
And is it worth checking out?
I actually have never watched the rebuilds. And there's plenty of people who I know who have been begging me to watch the rebuilds because they think they're fantastic, but I'm just the end of Evangelion did enough to me.
Fair.
I'm just ready to put it to bed now and not watch it for another 5 years.
For me, the series ended with the original series. I like the idea that Shinji just everyone told him, "Great job."
Honestly, I love those last two episodes. I love
Yeah,
those
I do
last two
too.
episodes.
They're really great.
Mhm.
And the final thing, and I promise I'll get to your music now. Sub or dub?
Hmm?
Sub or dub?
Oh, Super Dup. I usually am a sub person. Um, I do really like the dub
I do
of
too.
Evangelion.
I watched it with the dub, the English dub. I think the acceptable. There's three acceptable shows you can watch like dubbed. It's
Mm.
Evangelion, Cowboy Bebop, and Studio Ghibli movies. I think they're the three that people
Ghibli,
kind of accept. Yeah,
yeah, no, I would totally agree with those three actually.
yeah.
Like Cowboy Bebop is just fucking incredible. Um, but yeah, no, I do just love that in the original dub of Evangelion, Shinji's just played by like a 30-year-old man, and it's
Hey,
you can hear it.
hey, some 30-year-old men sound like teenagers, I guess.
Not
Not
not really
him.
him, not him. Like,
How has life been, I guess, since the release of your third record? I mean, actually, let me start here, right? So,
hmm,
you've been doing music under your own name for about half a decade now,
yeah.
and already you've accrued three full-length albums, an EP, and I don't know how much I can talk about this. An upcoming EP, is that okay to say?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, I don't know
Um,
because I was checking the EPK and it said that the details about the upcoming EP are under embargo. So I don't want to get sued. I don't want to go to jail. I don't want to waste my life in jail
if
for
they,
this.
if they are under embargo, then that's fair enough. But yeah, I do have another one coming out. I think actually it might have been under embargo, but I did see that in one of the articles that was posted a couple of days ago reviewing the single, it just said about the upcoming EP. So,
Yeah.
I do,
Well, I'm gonna be very mum about it, but you can feel free to break that embargo. It's your product.
yeah.
Um, but does it feel prolific to you? I mean, in terms of the amount of releases you've done, because like in 2021 alone, you released two records. So
Yeah.
does it feel like you're really hitting it hard, or does it feel like a natural kind of pace for you?
It does feel quite natural, and I feel like the releasing two albums in 2021 was just because I had nothing else to do,
Yeah.
as many other people did as well.
Why? What
Um,
happens?
um, I don't know, like people were saying that they were just staying in their houses. I just did for the fun of it.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but
I remember going out, everything was closed. I'm like, what's going on?
yeah, no, because I figured because it was just after I finished uh my bachelor's in I just did it in music in Belfast.
Mhm.
I had been very like classically minded and was like every performance I had done up to then was just classical piano pieces
Mhm.
and recitals and all that. And just because I wanted to sort of branch out a bit with the time that I had, I just started writing songs and they just kept pouring out of me and out of me and out of me, and it created enough for two albums. Granted, like both of those albums are complete, like they were learning curves for me. I still look back at them and I still play the songs and I do have a lot of love for them, but if I were to do them now, there was so much that I would do differently. For example, recording them on a good mic, for a start. But I give it the sort of license because um you've got so many DIY artists out there like Car Seat Headrest or whatever, and their first albums sound like they were recorded on like wire tape recorders from the 1940s, you know.
Mhm.
Um, I think it just adds a lot of charm to it, and I do have a lot of love for them. But yeah, the third album that I put out around this time last year, um, it took so long to make it just because I was busy and I had nowhere else to go. Oh, I appear to have disappeared there. Um,
I can still hear you fine.
yeah, the I felt like there was I was doing so much like sorting things out. I moved to England for a bit. I was doing my masters. It was just there was so much going on, and the third one just took ages to get started. And yeah, um, it was uh, it was sort of a much bigger learning curve for me because I actually had an idea of what I was doing and how to release it and how to properly record it and produce it, So it is just like I'm taking these things as they come, and I'm glad that they're sort of paying off and sounding good.
Could I ask whereabouts in England did you relocate to?
I went to Bristol.
Oh, cool. Oh,
Um,
Bristol has a great music scene, man.
Bristol's fantastic. Like it's just got so much history to it, and I really felt like there was so much like it was just really like dipping my toe into something that was so much bigger. And like the masters I did there in music, I was taught by like a bunch of like really like esteemed people, like esteemed like composers and producers and everything. There was a fella who like that I was taught in like studio techniques by who recorded Portishead's first two albums. Um, so that was bizarre. Um, there
Did
was
you
one
go
time.
to him like, I also made a record?
Oh God, no, because I was he would have listened to 2 seconds of it would have been like this is shite. Um,
Porter said, huh, well, I also make music too, so
yeah, yeah. But
or was
no,
that just
Bristol.
condescending him?
I was just like, yeah, they're good, but they haven't made anything in like 15 years, and I made two records in 1 year, so
Now who's winning?
not to say that because like Jeff Bauer from Portishead is scary as hell. So if he finds
Yeah.
out about I said that, then he may be like, what the fuck? Okay.
Um, so did you actually perform over there, or were you involved in the music scene in that sense, or was the Masters just taking up all your time?
it was taking up a lot of my time. I tried to do like open mics and things, and I was still very much finding my feet
Mhm.
with performing. I had never done a gig at that point, and I had it was just after like whenever the lockdown restrictions were getting lifted gradually. So things just felt very like uncertain for a lot of the musicians there, and for more so for myself because I had no clue how to sort of break into it. So there were like regular open mics that I did, and I was still sort of focusing on like practicing my sort of classical chops really. Because the degree I did was in composition for film and TV, so that really had a big impact on a lot of the stuff that I wrote following, like the instrumental stuff that I put on the third album. And yeah, I do feel like I didn't perform any gigs, but it was really valuable of me to, you know, not throw myself into the deep end immediately.
So just to make sure I'm getting the timeline correct, so you made your first two records, Tragedy and Destroyer, at your home Belfast, and then you moved to Bristol to do your masters. This was still during COVID time, so I guess
Hmm.
2021ish still. And
Yeah,
um, while you were over there, so you were doing your masters, and I don't know if it was like a 1 or 2 year degree, and then you came back, and then that's when Meteorite season happened. Is that
yeah.
timeline generally okay?
Yeah, so yeah, recorded the first two in Northern Ireland um in 2021, moved to Bristol, did my masters in 2021 and 22, came back to Belfast, and I had written one song. Like I found it so hard to write songs whenever I was living in England. And the one song that I wrote was Acrobat, which is the first song that I put out for Meteorite season, and it was because Problem Patterns, who I have like so much love and respect for. They are like,
Yeah, they're great.
you know, they're fucking gods to me. Like, they this is annoying me. What's doing that? They they sent me an email being like, we're putting together a compilation album for Pride Month, and we're going to donate the profits to the Rainbow Project. So would you be in? And I wrote this really early demo of Acrobat that's on that album, and at its heart, it was a great song. I really did think it was there was something there, but that version of it just needed so much work on it, so I just completely redid it for the album, and that was just about the time that I moved back. So I really feel like I came back to Belfast, sort of like hitting the ground running and writing and recording a lot of music.
How'd you get on their radar?
No clue. Um, I at this time, um, I was still very new to the Belfast music scene, and because I had only started getting into it like as I in the last couple of months of living there before I went to England again, I everybody was just like an Instagram presence to me. I'd never seen them in person, never seen them live, never met them in person. So I was just they were like stars to me. So whenever I got the email from them, I was like, oh my God, Problem Patterns want me on a compilation album. And now like I still acted that way whenever I came back to live here. And I think that at some point I just wised up and was like, I just see these people going to the shop on the
Yeah,
weekends. Like I go like, I see them in cafes. Like it's not really like they're just people who work here.
yeah.
Um,
No, I totally relate to what you're saying too. Because like sometimes I'm at gigs and stuff, and I'm just like, oh, like this presence, and then it's like, you actually talk to people, and they're actually human too. It's surprising.
yeah. Yeah, it took a while to get out of that mindset, but I have no idea how I turned up in Problem Patterns radar. I think they were just searching for as many like queer musicians as they could find, because I think there were maybe like 25 on that album.
Mhm.
Um, and I they did sort of reach far and wide for them. I think they had somebody from Canada, uh, one of Alana, the lead singer's friends, contributing a track. So it was like they were really pulling out all their resources. So I'm glad that they did reach out because that was really the first domino.
Yeah,
for it.
that's a good advice for any budding musicians. Is if problem partners ask you to do anything, you say yes.
Exactly. I'm sure many can relate.
You find a way to make it work.
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, Returning to Belfast and kind of getting ensconced in the music scene, had you had previous experience as a fan of kind of, I guess, the smaller, more kind of club level music, or actually that obviously you were mentioning there in passing, your background studying classical music, but when it came to, I guess, more for lack of a better term, popular music, or more, I guess,
Mhm.
something you'd see at a club. Were you like familiar with that scene as a fan prior to leaving?
Um, Actually not really. I really only started pop music was something that only really came to me in my like really late teenage years, honestly.
Hmm.
And it just was like, I sort of started to get into like the real basic sort of indie ones whenever I was like 19. And this didn't include, well, it included some people from the music scene in Belfast. Like Arborist was one of the ones that I would have listened to a lot because he was fantastic. And his last record is just so good as well. But um it was around the time of like the lockdown whenever I didn't really have anything else to do. I just started listening to all these albums that I just had missed out on. And I think I cleared like maybe 250, 300 in the like from March to December, and it really sort of informed a lot of things that I could do with writing music. And I think that writing all the songs must have really come out of that because there was just so much being thrown at me, and so much of it was just sticking to me. Like this is like I didn't know that music could sound like this. Because it was really just of all genres. So that that really did sort of familiarize me with like how to write, and sort of give me the first inklings of how to like what makes well produced music.
I actually, and this is my fault, the way I framed, I guess, your music, I kind of stepped over something for a second. So I kind of started with Destroyer in 2021, but obviously there was Abraham Soter, the EP that came out a year prior.
Yeah, yeah.
So that came out in 2020. I don't know what month exactly offhand,
Mhm.
but was that then influenced by all that stuff during the lockdown, or did you kind of have that material prior?
That was sort of my first attempt at writing songs, and that was done for a module in uni
Yeah.
where I just we had to create like a professional portfolio of work, and I just started writing these songs for it, and they just stuck. And the professor that was marking the work said that they were really good, so I just stuck with them. And they were all they were all done on the piano because that was all I really had. I couldn't really play the guitar all that well um at that time. So that was sort of some of those songs seem very like not juvenile, but they're very like you can tell that they're among the first songs that I wrote, and I do think that they have a lot of classical influence to them, but it really does. You can see like a marked difference between those songs and the ones that I have now.
Yeah, no, I think it's actually good advice for musicians to listen to like the first releases of like their favorite artists, because I don't think there's many artists who you can't see a growth with, you know what I mean? Unless it's like the
Oh,
Velvet
absolutely.
Underground or something like that, where it's like they only kind of have the, well, Velvet Underground have a bunch of records, but only one that people really reference.
Yeah.
But if it's a band like, or like the Sex Pistols or something, like a band who's known primarily for a single record, it's a bit different. But if you're talking about a band who kind of rose to prominence on maybe their second or third record, or beyond, I think it's very interesting to go back to the early singles and the EPs and the albums prior to
Oh,
that, because
absolutely.
I
Yeah.
think it makes it a little more accessible. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it does really give you a lot of confidence in your own ability to write songs, I find, because um I know that like there are musicians I would talk to who like are really sort of um they have these ideas of branching out and doing different things with their music, but um they feel quite inhibited and like like scared to take the risk of it. And like
Yeah.
that's because that's certainly how I felt, but I think it all just came at the right time for me because it was during a time when I had nothing else to do and all I could do was experiment.
Yeah. Actually, I want to pick your brain about this. This is something I've talked about before, but I'd like to get your opinion. I notice now that like with artists kind of like self-releasing and having full ownership of their music, once they kind of get to a certain place where they feel like, okay, this is my sound and this is what I'm kind of convinced of. For some of them, there's often an inclination to kind of go back to the early material and delete it. And
Hmm.
I feel very ambivalent on that. On the one hand, I kind of go, well, it's your music. You have the autonomy to do that, and you should have the autonomy to do that if you want. But at the same time, I kind of feel like it's historical revisionism in a way. And I know that sounds dramatic, but I kind of feel like you are kind of deleting something just because, like, as you mentioned, it seems like retrospectively sophomoric, or it seems it doesn't resonate with you anymore. Where I kind of feel like as a music listener, I like to kind of have
Hmm.
the full body of an artist's work. How do you feel about that in terms of like people going back now and deleting their previous material?
I mean, like artists are completely free to do that if they wish. It's not something that I would do because I do agree. I think it is revisionist. Um, but like I find that you know artists can do that because they don't resonate with the songs anymore, as you said. And there are certainly early songs that I feel like I don't resonate with anymore. And the way that I sort of deal with that is I don't really play them live at all.
Sure.
Like, I feel like that's my way of sort of, you know, um, you know, putting them to rest. But they still exist. They're still out there, and if people resonate with them, then that like that's completely fine. That makes me very glad that they do. There was one song from the EP that I put on Destroyer as well, down by Ryder Square. It's a song that I find like I would rewrite it if I could today because I just find that I could have done it better. But there was one fella who said that it really that song really means a lot to him and he would like to sort of make merchandise of his own based on one of the lyrics from that. And that really just like stuck with me and it's made me want to actually go back and re-record it because that's kind of how I would do it. I would make redo versions of these songs because I think that they can wear like these songs can wear a lot of clothes. They change over time because they represent one specific moment in time
Hmm.
and that the context of that can change in terms of maybe you can look back at it fondly or maybe it doesn't resonate with you anymore, but you can change the context by sort of changing the clothes of the song. And there have been ideas that I've had where I would like to redo some of my older material, um, because I have rewritten them in like a live setting.
Yeah.
So that's like I wouldn't go so far to delete. I would maybe just readapt.
Sure. That's fair. I mean, I wanted to ask also, when you were in uni, when you were studying music, were you also studying production at the same time, or was that something you were teaching yourself as you went?
No, I didn't study it. There was one module that I did where it was easier to use like Ableton.
Hmm.
Um, and I had to just teach myself that from scratch, and it was mostly just like me messing around, trying to recreate like synth sounds or organ sounds on songs that I liked.
Yeah.
Like I think one of the first things I did on Ableton was I recreated like the intro of Impossible Soul by Sufjan Stevens, and I mean like the first 2 minutes because then it just gets fucking crazy out from there. Um, and there's no way with my incredibly rudimentary knowledge that I could have done anything beyond that. But it was very much like I was teaching myself. It was all very much like trial and error. Um, but yeah, there were a lot of people in my like a lot of my peers were doing like production classes, and I wish I had because it would have given me a better grasp on it. But I have the grasp that I have on the like classical music, and I wouldn't really change that.
Yeah, I often think with like digital interfaces and things like that, it's better just to kind of go into it, learn the fundamentals on like a YouTube video or something, and then kind of just fuck around and see what you come up with,
Oh
and
yeah.
your production skills just kind of gradually increase. I think
Mm.
sometimes like when you're being taught like the software kind of formally. Now I don't have experience with production software, but I've used sorry, audio production software rather. But I've used, for example, video editing software like Premiere Pro, and I
Hmm.
was doing interning at this production company, and one of the guys there was more seasoned, and I was getting my work done, I was getting my workload done, but he didn't like the way I was like laying out my edit, and he was like, "This is how you should do it," and the way he did it was like so kind of idiosyncratic in a way that to me it was like I just have to relearn everything just to satiate this guy's demands, and I was like, I think it's just
Hmm.
preferable just to let people have their own individual way of doing things as long as you have an
Yeah.
interface that's amendable to that, you know?
Yeah. Even then, like I didn't use any YouTube videos to learn the fundamentals. I just completely went my own way. Like the main one that I would use now is Cubase because it just works well with like composition and everything. But it's a difficult one to wrap your head around if you've never if you've only really used like Ableton or whatever. But whenever I was doing the studio classes during my masters, I was showcasing some of the work to one of my lecturer who had done the recording for Portishead, and he just takes a look and goes, "You've got this, and this wrong.
Yeah.
You can't do that." Um, and part of me is like, yeah, I would like to learn things my own way, but these were like the fundamentals that I got completely wrong. So, um, I've stuck with them. I use them as like a groundwork, but the rest of it, I'm just doing it my own way.
And when it comes to like your releases this far, would you recommend like new listeners to start with Meteorite season, or do you think it's better just to go chronologically? How do you feel about like the
Hmm.
introduction to your project?
I think Meteorite season is probably like a very good starting point because I feel like it's totally representative of my like overarching sound. There's a lot in it. Um and sometimes I think that maybe some people could think that that's bloated, some people could think that it's not really like congruent as a body
Hmm.
of work. I really think it is. I think that
I do too.
I think
Yeah,
like it's got like I can see like a thread going through it, like almost like a narrative thread of sorts. Um, because the narrative is basically just my entire year living in Bristol. But like I think like going chronologically, you can see the progression of the production, the atmosphere, the songwriting, and like I've no problem with that because I think that the way that things have progressed has been quite fast, and it's been like a lot of those songs I still think are very good. But I think the Meteorite season is like, you know, a it was kind of like a watershed moment of sorts. And I think that it's, like at the moment the central point uh of all the songs that I've written. Even then, like that might just be recency bias because it did only come out a year ago.
sure.
And I'm still like still writing off it. I still play like there's a gig that I'm going to be doing over the summer where I'm just going to play the entire album front to back on the piano. So it is very much something that like I do love wholly. Um, so I am very much drawn to saying that as like the point of reference for me.
When it comes to producing your own music, do you have to have consideration for emulating the sound live, or do you kind of just go, no, the production's its own thing, and
Mm.
the music I'm making is sort of it's already adaptable in a live setting. It doesn't have to be necessarily, one for one. Because like
Mm.
an important thing you mentioned there that I think kind of gets overlooked in a lot of music is that sense of atmosphere. It's very strange, and it's very, I know it's a very difficult thing to even put into words. I mean, I think it's very In a lot of ways, sometimes the atmosphere I find kind of comes after the fact, and you kind of look back on it, and then
Hmm.
it is like the collection of work together as a tonality that kind of creates that atmosphere. I don't know if you agree with that.
Hmm. No, I think that the atmosphere, especially for Meteorite season, is its own thing. Um, and like I would love to recreate it live. I would love to like have the opportunity to properly stage it. Like there was last year, Kieran Lavery staged his last album, Light Entertainment, at the Lyric in Belfast, and it was like a full production, like narrative threads going on, like really elaborate staging. It was phenomenal. And then he took it out to um like different cities just on like a short tour. Like I think it was like London and Amsterdam he went to, and it was completely pared back. Just it was just him and a guitar on really on like rooms that had a much smaller capacity than the Lyric. And I
Mhm.
think that like that would be like a dream scenario where I could, do one staging of this production I have envisioned. But ultimately I think that um the heart of the songs just lie in the content of them, like the writing itself, and being able to just translate it and make it sort of um take a different form um in a more restricted live setting.
And also, when sorry, I'm jumping around all over the place here.
You're good.
When you moved back to Belfast after living in Bristol, so you mentioned Meteorite season was kind of based on your experience in Bristol. Was that
Hmm.
something that was being crafted as you were there, or was that something that you wrote retrospectively about that time?
There was only one song on the album that made it onto the final product, which was Acrobat. Even then, it was still rewritten and re-recorded. And let me think. No, Invincible Summer was as well. So there were two songs that made it onto the album that I made in Bristol, but the rest of it was uh I'm completely forgetting myself here. So there were two that were written in Bristol, but then there was one other one, Letter to an Unknown Artist, that I had started writing, and I had envisioned like I'd started writing it as this like big like 9 minute long piano piece, and it was very big, very grandiose, and I could never finish it. I just had the instrumental and I could never write any lyrics for it. So it was sort of half of a song by the time I moved there, and it was coming together. So a lot of it was uh retrospective. Certainly that song, because it was probably the most retrospective, because I took this unfinished piece and just um tried my best to make it something, and it did come out as something that I was really happy with. But Acrobat and Invincible Summer were the only two songs that came from actually being there physically, and the rest of it was just um thought of afterwards.
Then when you started gigging in Belfast, did you find it was an easy thing to kind of break into, or was there barriers of entry?
I found that it was quite easy, because there's places in Belfast that are really really eager um to have up and coming musicians play shows, and it's very accessible to actually book them. You just have to put in all the admin work, which is a ball ache in and of itself. But
Sure.
um I think that's like once you have that down, it's a great way of actually, you know, building it up and getting more gigs. And that's certainly what happened to me, because I got different support slots. I was able to play different like showcase gigs as well. Um, then it led to a couple of gigs in England as well, which happened earlier this year. I went over to Coventry in February to support Dowdy Matsiko, who's phenomenal folk singer. And he released this album last year, The King of Misery, that's incredible. And then I did another support set in Bristol in April, um, supporting uh this Liverpool band Courting, who are fucking incredible as well. Um, but a lot of those was just a lot of that was just from chancing my arm and asking people I knew, being like, "Here, can I support that band?" Um,
Yeah.
which I felt like I was being really, really bold doing, but a lot of artists I know have done the exact same thing, and that's landed them gigs. So I feel like once you've got to do it strategically, and I found that I had to do it strategically with like playing easy, easy to book venues, the building it up, but also just becoming a bit ballsy and asking people to play these gigs.
That is a difficult thing too, is actually, for some people have varying degrees of confidence about this thing. Some people are very like,
Hmm.
confident and very forthright about like saying, "Hey, I would like to do this. Is that okay?" And other people are a bit more squirrelish about it.
Yeah, yeah,
Did
yeah.
did you find that was something you had to overcome, or was that something that came naturally to you and just being able to kind of go, "Hey, maybe me."
It did take a while to sort of build that up because I was trying to like I was still trying to find my own voice in a live setting, and I felt like once I could, get up on stage and be comfortable with it, and not like, have my legs shaking for the entire set.
Hmm.
Um, I was in there and I'd be like, right, I feel okay here. I need to, actually try and get more of these gigs because they're paying decently and it's a setting that I actually feel okay to be in right now.
Hmm.
I think it
Well,
does take that initially.
how do you find that actually being like doing what you're doing now and differed from I guess the experience you had growing up or the experience you had at third level education? I mean, I think
Mm.
you can be as I don't know, academic about it as you want, but then there is the practical side of it too. Did you find that what you studied and what you learned in school benefited you then when you actually went to the stage, or was it just like completely new?
I feel like it was completely new. Like my prior experience of being on a stage was like playing the piano in like music festivals or gala concerts or whatever, and it was all just very, you know, very like methodical. It was all, you know, sheet music in front of you, just have to stick to that, maybe do a bit of interpretation to like spice it up a bit, but nothing like beyond that. Like you didn't have to like actually like fully engage the crowd just as a personality.
Sure.
You just had to play the music and then go on. And I feel like that did have to come to me after a bit of experience of performing on stage, like with my own work, you know.
You've mentioned influences you've had in terms of the music you're crafting now,
Hmm.
Sufjan Stevens, and I think if I'm correct, you mentioned Phoebe Bridgers at one point,
Hmm.
Talk I believe or another, but just in terms
Hmm.
specifically about stage presence, did you have any artists that kind of influenced what you want to emulate in that sense?
Um, One of the ones that I look to quite a lot, just because he is so good at crowd work, is Joel Harkin. He's a phenomenal musician from Donegal, and he lives in Belfast, and I have no idea how he's able to just captivate a crowd and talk absolute shite to them. It's like it's incredible. Like his music is unbelievable. Like he's a brilliant songwriter, but also he's just so naturally charismatic and funny, and that's what I wanted to like have about me, you know? Um, I feel like he tells stories on stage that I feel like I could recount word for word because I've heard them so many times. Um, but I'm trying to think if there's anybody like, who just has such a like captivating personality as a performer. Um, oh God, let me think. Who have I seen that really, really stuck with me? Um, Yeah, I think mostly it is just him. He's just probably he probably
You
is
have
like
the
the main
soul
one.
influence.
Yeah, it's just, he I feel like our music is also very similar as well. We're both two fellas who play white Telecasters that are drenched in reverb. Um it's sometimes I do worry, like, am I ripping him off? But I think there's just like so many of these similarities. But he is just like a phenomenal musician, and I feel like I sort of look to him as like, you know, um like a guidance almost whenever I'm performing, because I'm just like, fuck, he's just so naturally with it, you know?
You sure? When it comes to sort of crafting, I guess like your kind of idiosyncratic songbook, that doesn't neatly fit into, I think, any category. It's not folk, it's not country or something. You know what I mean? It's not
Hmm.
like metal or punk or something where like there's a scene, so to speak. Did you find it was accommodating to that in terms of just like generating an audience? I mean, because I do like people who kind of make atypical music, but one thing I notice is that a lot of them kind of talk about the difficulties you sometimes have in terms of getting gigs because they're not easy to fit on a bill necessarily. Have you ever had
Yeah.
any issues with that, or has it kind of been grand for you?
Um, I feel like the recorded music I have is certainly very like, it's difficult to like put it in one box, and even then I sort of find a lot of difficulty to um describe it whenever I'm doing like, PR, sending it out to people or anything.
Sure.
It's so hard to think of like a genre name for it, and I think I've sort of settled with folk with teeth. Um, and I feel like that does sort of encapsulate how it is whenever I do it in a live setting, because it's always
Mhm.
just me and like electric guitar with a lot of sort of crunch on it. Um,
Yeah.
and I feel like that does serve it well. Um, and I feel like because it's very like, I wouldn't say that it's technically limited to that, because I do want to sort of do more sort of ensemble work and maybe get a band together, but because I feel very comfortable playing these songs just as myself, um, it's quite easy for me um to get on lineups and to do these things, because I feel like it's quite you can like I can certainly create like a very filling sound with just myself. Um, so I've not really had any trouble with it, and I feel like because I think the songwriting is strong and the atmosphere in the recorded pieces are just like so broad. Um, I find that it's interesting, but I do bring a lot of variety to what I do,
When
and I
you bring
think,
the sound, sorry, when you bring the sound to venues, I assume you're using the in-house tech. So do you find that the sound engineers are able to adapt to what you're doing, or does it take a bit of a conversation to kind of get what you need? Or
honestly, I've never really had much trouble. Like, there's been sound checks that I've done that have lasted like 5-10 minutes,
yeah,
because it's so simple. All I need is an amp, and that's me. Um, because like, I like, as I said, I would bring a band with me if I could, but I think I would find it difficult to translate the songs that I have to like a full band arrangement, because a lot of them require particular instruments and particular sounds, and I just couldn't recreate that live with one band. So I will have to like adapt them and make them into like new arrangements, and I don't really have any trouble with that. It would just take a lot of time to get the ball rolling on it.
sure.
But um even then, just as myself, like, I've never really had much of a problem with like, live like live setup and sound engineers or anything.
Perfect. And before I go on to your latest release, I just want to stick just one. I have one more question about your previous release, which to
Mhm.
say, um, You were kind of mentioned that the records and the full bodies of work you've released so far have had a great continuity between them, and I agree. I think it does. I think it's sort of for me as someone who is involved in the art. To me, it's kind of like I don't know, watching like a David Lynch film or something where it's like I don't fully understand it, but I get it. Like on an emotional level, I get I get the expression that's coming through,
Yeah.
but I'm not going to try and impose my interpretations on anything. For you, do you go in with a consistent through line between the records from the beginning, or is it just kind of organically you build a body of work and then when they're kind of mushed together, sort of you look back and you go, oh, that's what it was.
Hmm. Before I answer that, that's the second time this week that my music has been compared to David Lynch,
Oh, cool.
which is honestly like, couldn't ask for higher praise in that
I've
sense.
just been watching him a lot since he passed away,
Oh,
so
yeah, me too. Like I've got a gig tomorrow and I'm trying to work in heaven into one of my songs.
oh, lovely, yeah.
So I'll see if that works. But
Did you
no,
ever actually? Sorry, this is a bit of a tangent, but
yeah.
do you know the story about the guy who sang in heaven? I think David Lynch wrote the song, but it
Mm,
was a dude called Peter Ivers,
yeah.
and I knew him because he used to host his show called New Wave Theater, which was like back in the 80s, was like public access television, and they used to
Hmm.
bring on all like the new punk and new wave bands and stuff like that. But he was murdered, and it was like such a weird story. Anyway, I won't get into that now, but just, look up Peter Ivers. He's very interesting. Sorry, as
Yeah.
you were saying.
No, I will look that up. But yeah. Um, yeah, I think that a lot of the time, whenever I'm making like a full body of work, be that like an EP or an album, I have a I have a very basic idea of what I want. Be that like a narrative or a sound. Like there's an album that I'm trying to put together at the moment. And like the songs are, barely there, but I just want to like pull together something like a start point and a finish point and work out the rest as I go. And I feel like that's usually what I do. That's certainly what I did with Meteorite season. There were songs that I wrote being like, right, this is going to be the start, and then the end is going to be here. And with that last song, um, on Meteorite season, Blood Split the Atom, that has like themes and like little motifs and whatever else from 7 songs throughout the album. And some of them just appear there naturally. Some of them I just sort of peppered in. Um, and I think that as I go on making the record, things just become clearer, things fall into place. Um, for example, like when I was making this EP that's coming out, I like I initially had conceived it as an album, and I had all the songs written, and it was almost ready to go, but I just didn't think that it was strong enough at all, and I just cut it down to what it is now. And I had to sort of rework the narrative a bit to see if I could, you know, put something together that actually, was like a sound cohesive body of work, but also translated what I wanted to get across initially with this uh, larger set of songs, that had to be scrapped. But yeah, some of these things just do fall into place, like little ideas that I have as I'm sort of producing and like mixing and fawning over the last bits of the song. Um, yeah, sometimes it is just like a process of, you know, having a bigger idea, and then as you're actually working on the smaller parts of it, you see that there are things that could work, and then when you put them in, they really do work as like a larger part of the full body.
Again, I'm going to try and talk about this without breaking the embargo. I actually don't know how much I can say or not.
That,
I'll say this. There's much fewer track. I think I can say this. I listened to the EP because it was sent to me.
yeah,
I
yeah.
got like a SoundCloud link. There's there's more than two, but less than. than 5 songs on it. So working within that restraint of fewer songs. I mean, did you find that easier or harder to construct an overall narrative? I guess.
Um, I found that it was because they all had the same theme running through the um the set of songs. Like I found that, you know, I could have made it work if there was maybe like because like two songs you can't really get like a whole lot across. I feel like that's just a single. Um, but once you have once you have something larger than that,
Sure.
okay. I didn't know this embargo was happening, so I'm trying to be as coy as I can.
Maybe we shouldn't speak about it. Maybe we'll just leave it there if you want. I don't
Yeah.
know.
No, but like what the point I'm trying to make is like yeah, it was sort of difficult adapting to this um
More restraint.
yeah,
Yeah.
the this change to the initial idea that I had. It was quite difficult to sort of think about like right, this song has to go, this song has to go, this song has to go. This is what I'm left with. What do I do now? And it sort of took a bit of reworking and sort of rejigging and reordering, but ultimately, like, recognizing that there was work to do with reshaping this different product that I had, rather than just being like, right, this song, this song, this song, put it out. Um, I think that was really important in sort of making sure that it could, you know, stand on its own two legs.
Perfect. And well, we definitely can talk about because it's already out. The first song of the EP is the Ballad of McKinley Park, which is about the
Hmm.
park in Sacramento, California. And actually,
Yes.
on your first EP, there was a Sacramento hymn. So, what is it about the Californian capital that draws you? And if I
S
am correct, is that the Californian flag on the water bottle behind you?
yes, it is. So
Yes,
that's
I knew I recognized it.
one of my friends,
I'm good at
one of my best
flexology.
one of my best friends from like whenever I lived in Bristol was from Davis, California, which is like like 20 minutes outside of Sacramento. And they got married last year. Um so me and my other housemate in Bristol went to fly out to see them, but also just to have, to spend time in California because we had neither of us had ever been there before. Like I would go to America to visit my grandparents, but it was like the other side of the continent. So I'd never been that far west before. And specifically about Sacramento, it's both of those songs, McKinley Park and Sacramento Hymn, have they're directly inspired by uh Greta Gerwig's film Lady Bird,
Yep.
which I adore that film. Like it's sort of been like a constant throughout my adult life. And I keep going back to it and keep seeing different things in it and
I went to see that
loving.
with my mom in the cinema. It's a real good child and parent film, I think.
Yeah, it is a beautiful film, but it's one that I keep coming back to. And um initially the Sacramento Hymn was about it was sort of a composition about it, like no lyrics or anything about it, and it was very directly inspired by the film and sort of the atmosphere of it. And McKinley Park had little bits of that in it, but also it was generally just about the experience of being there in Sacramento. Um because it almost did feel like a pilgrimage of sorts.
Sure.
Um and I was just sort of trying to run two different narrative threads between, you know, what happens in Ladybird, the fact that she really hates Sacramento and wants to leave
Hmm.
because, it's just the general feeling that you get with your hometown. But I was sort of trying to reckon that with, my own feeling of being like, this is incredible. Like, I love it here. But also trying to understand that, like, you, a lot of people outgrow their hometowns. And it just sort of like weaving those two ideas together um sort of led to the birth of this song, and it was yeah, it's just a song that like I have a lot of love for.
It's interesting getting that like perspective from someone else. Actually, I used to work at live events down here, and a
Mm,
lot of people from Belfast would come down, and I was at the Tree Arena, and I was outside, and there was this guy from Belfast who was having a smoke, and I was just talking to him, and he was like, it's just weird, like the stuff, like just seeing it from other people's perspective, because he was like pretty impressed with the Lewis, which like our tram line, and he was like, "Yeah, we don't have
mm,
anything like that in Belfast. So great." And all. I was like, "Oh, it's just like these weird. It's always weird, I think, to see like the perspective from everyone else's eyes. Even when I go abroad, it's like the trivial things that we have here, and that pretty much every city has, like infrastructure, like public transport and buses and stuff like that. It's just always interesting the little differences, I
hmm
guess, between like say the buses in your hometown versus the buses in the place you're in, even though it's
Aye.
all the same stuff. It's just I don't know. I get very enamored by that kind of stuff myself.
Yeah, yeah. You know what? He's right because like the Lewis is a damn sight better than what we've got here. Um,
What would be
no,
the local equivalent?
gliders. They're
Yeah.
shite. They're shite. Um, I yeah, I've beef with the public transport system in Belfast, no harm. But yeah, I think that that was a very present feeling whenever I was writing the song because like there was just so much about the town like I was just completely enamored with because it is just like a really beautiful city. I had been reading around that time I had been reading a lot of Joan Didion as well, and she's
Oh yeah.
like Sacramento native, writes a lot about the city, and getting she doesn't quite have the same outlook on it as like Greta Gerwig or Lady Bird would. And it's really fascinating getting like a very sort of neutral look at it from her. Um because it sort of give me like a good insight going in being like, I do get what she's saying about this place. And I feel like as well, Sacramento just has such a great cultural, like a really rich cultural history to it because it's got like Greta Gerwig's come out of a Joan Didion as well. You've got like Death Grips and Deftones coming out
Yeah.
of there as well. Like it's just it is so rich and you can really feel it when you go there.
I love that. That's a dream dinner guest. Deck Rips, Greta Gerwig, Joe Didion, and Deftones.
Every like there was whenever I went was in Sacramento, there was a point where I was like, I need to go to this. I need to like stand outside this club where Death Grips had their first show. And because I've watched the video of their first show on YouTube so many times because it ends with one of the speakers blowing up and causing an electrical fire in the venue, and I was like, this is the fucking greatest thing I've ever seen.
I had the opportunity to see Deck Rips last Sunday in Dublin, and I have to say, I thought it was going to pass out. It was like the hottest show I've ever been to. It
Yeah.
was insane. It was like, I really did think I was like, because it was at the Academy in Dublin, and
Mm.
they were giving out like waters. They just like they couldn't get enough because it was just like they were just putting them on the bar because they knew everyone was coming over for them. I was like, oh my God, and we came out, but everyone was like real sweaty and just like, that was a great show. That was awesome. You know, it was a
There
fun time.
was yeah, there was one of my friends that saw them like 10 years ago in Belfast, and he says that it was like the deadliest show that you've ever been at because he was like, I genuinely thought I was gonna die in that pit. Um like I think that it wasn't just like a mosh pit. There were legitimately like two fellas just fully fucking fighting each other, and then I think they kept fighting each other whenever they left the venue.
I think there was something else going on there.
Yeah,
Um,
it just came to a head at the Death Grip show.
it's a good soundtrack if you want to have a fight, I guess. If you're ever like if you're ever like in a bar or something, and someone's starting and you just be like 1 second, then just put on Get Got or something and just go ahead. I wanted to ask actually something about I'm gonna make a presumption here and correct me if I'm wrong. I'm gonna
Mhm,
assume that neither you or I are the biggest fans of the current US administration. Um well, I was
mhm,
wondering like is there any kind of sense of melancholy, I guess, in terms of like, writing about a place that, you have fond memories of, but kind of I guess
mhm,
knowing that like at least for the foreseeable future, the idea of returning there isn't really probably on the cards, or maybe I'm wrong. But
mhm.
to me, I'm kind of like looking at him like I would never go to America during the current administration. It's just way too. dodgy and unstable.
Yeah.
Do you feel that way too?
Um, yeah. Yeah. I feel like part of me is like I would really love to go back and just try to be ignorant about what's going on, but you can't really just because it keeps
No.
getting worse every day. Like I didn't go to America during the first Trump administration, and that was just like it wasn't really like I had any sort of control over that. It just sort of worked out that way.
Hmm.
But you know, with the fact that like it's just becoming so like increasingly like reminiscent of like 30s Germany in a
Hmm.
sense. Like it leaves an awful taste in my mouth because like I would love to go back there. I would love to see my friends there. I would love to like see my family over there, but
Could I
it's
ask
just
what part they live in?
they
What
live
part
in
of the country?
They live in New England, like sort of
Oh, cool.
Boston, Vermont, and sort of the surrounding areas. Like
Hmm.
the family diaspora has like spread out across the country.
Cool.
But like I would really love to go back and see them, but just at the moment, as it just keeps getting more and more intense with every passing day, it would seem like it just I wouldn't feel entirely good about myself if I had like booked like a plane ticket to go over. I would feel very like you know like just hesitant and um a bit a bit concerned.
Yeah. No, I understand that. I mean, like, even in places like California or the states in New England that you're mentioning, it's like, even
Mm.
though they're kind of more progressive leaning and they're very anti-Trump, the federal government can override all their decisions. I mean, we're seeing that as we're speaking currently, the No Kings protests have happened.
Yeah.
There was the ICE riots in LA, or
Hmm.
that's how they're being framed anyway. I don't know the correct way of putting it, but people were kind of in California, and Gavin Newsom, who's their mayor or governor.
The governor, yeah.
Yeah, he was, they deployed the National Guard against his cassette and all. It's really like, I don't know. It's like just because the thing about like the America is always they're like, always talking about their constitution, how it gave protections and limited the power of the president, and never finding out, well, if the president doesn't respect it, he can kind of do what he wants. It's
Yeah.
not great. It's not a great time, and also, do you find that this is amplified rather as a queer person yourself in terms of like you just see how anti-LGBTQ plus he is. I mean, I don't know if you
Oh
saw this,
yeah.
but I think it was either today or yesterday they
Yeah, about
announced
the suicide hotline being shut
this
down.
national suicide hotline specifically for LGBTQ plus individuals, and
Yeah.
they're just shutting it down. They didn't give any reason. I'm sure he would argue, oh, government waste or some shit, but you know what I mean? It's just like,
Yeah.
do you
It
find
is
that
just
that's amplified because of that?
oh, 100%. Like I just think that like it's like I've seen so many times like people complaining or people trying to use like suicide rates among like LGBT people, specifically LGBT young people,
Hmm.
as like a talking point being like, oh, this is like, this is why like, they're mentally ill. I'm like, why do you think that is? Because you people are fucking like laughing in the face of this suicide hotline being shut down. Like,
Yeah.
what the hell do you think is gonna happen? It just really boils my blood. And I think as well, like with the whole thing of like people's phones apparently being checked at the borders and customs and everything, and like people being turned away
Including
if there's any,
citizens, by the way.
yeah, including citizens, like if there's any sort of like affiliation with Palestine or anything like
Yeah.
vaguely anti-Israel, like it's getting increasingly authoritarian, and I just like I get quite worried about it, and I I feel like I'm more than comfortable just like sitting like not going for the next 4 years. Um, and I hope to God it's 4 years if there's not like any if there's some sort of change in the tide, and I hope there is. But
Yeah.
even then, like sitting where you are now, you can't be ignorant about it, and you've just got to like say something and be like like, be really vocally against it, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, we're living in really difficult times. I mean, throughout the world, I'm just seeing all these like
Mm,
cataclysmic world events, and you feel so paralyzed. At least I do. I feel so paralyzed by it all. I'm like, I don't know what I can do. It's like
yeah.
I don't know. It's sorry to end on such a sour note, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully there will still be a world by the time your EP is set to release. Can you even vaguely gesture at when that would be?
October.
Okay, you said
It's
it, not me.
yeah, it's October. Um, actually, yeah, let's go vaguely. Autumn.
Okay, autumn, yeah.
Um, yeah, so I've said that to a couple of people that it would be coming out in the autumn, and I've said that at many, many live shows that
Yeah.
it's due out in autumn. So
I'm probably being a little too overprotective, but it's
I
just
mean, like it has.
you promise not to send me a court summons.
Oh, as if I could afford it in the first place. There's like as I was saying, like the one of the first magazine review or the first like article review that came in from for the single mentioned about the EP, the title and all coming out in October, and I was just like, oh, okay, great. I don't really like, I don't really care. But it's just like, it's funny, like you know, having to like keep things under
True.
wraps whenever I have told so many people it's happening. Like,
Well, it's unfortunate. I actually did have a question about the title, but I'm too afraid to
no,
bring it
go
up.
go
So,
ahead.
okay, so the title is called, and I might just brr if in post production. Uh, Correct me if I'm getting this wrong.
Mhm.
When Bethesda lands, they'll throw us a parade.
Yes.
So yeah, maybe you could talk a little bit about the title and how you feel it links
Mhm.
thematically to everything that's going on within.
So, um, it is a lyric from the last track, "Heaven, I'm in Heaven," which so the running theme with the EP is that each song is about a film that I watched sort of in the immediate aftermath of finishing Meteorite season because I just felt like I was like I have to keep making music or else I'm not really doing anything. Um, so because I'd written so much about personal stuff on that on Meteorite season, I just was like I can't do it anymore. I just need to write about something that's a bit more like it allows me to be a bit more creative. So I wrote about films, and the last track, "Heaven I'm in Heaven," is about the Mike Nichols adaptation of Angels in America, which is kind of a film, kind of a TV series. Depends whatever way you look at it. Um, and the last scene of that is set at the Bethesda fountain in Central Park, and I just um I can't remember exactly what the story with the angel Bethesda is, but it's I think it's that um the angel came down from heaven to and touched the fountain in Jerusalem and water started flowing out of it again. Um, so I think that's it anyway. But Angels in America is like, very, very like fundamental like queer text and it's all
Mhm.
about like the AIDS crisis and everything. But also kind of like a really out there fantasy. And writing directly about the film, I just sort of used the Angel Bethesda as like a figure about like queer liberation. And I feel like that's also another thing that's, very important right now, just because, as we said about Trump and everything, but also, what's going on in the UK as well.
Yeah, and
Even,
also add Hungary as well.
yeah, it
Yeah.
just all over. Like, I feel like it's something that's very, uh, it's something that I couldn't not write about. And I had said initially going in, like, I'm gonna try to, like, not make anything personal, but it just felt like, some of these things spilled in.
Yeah, especially yeah, because like obviously like it's weird because like some people I think want to be not apolitical but like not politically charged in their lyrics, but it's like I don't know, man. Like politics are gonna like disseminate down to the individual on the individual level. I think
Yeah.
it's kind of ignorant if you're not. I don't know. It's a weird thing where I think sometimes the reluctance to talk about politics is like about being informed or stuff like that. But it's like I don't know. I think you can have a visceral opinion on say the erosion of LGBTQ plus rights or on Palestine or whatever. I think you can have
Oh, yeah.
those things on a visceral level without having to I don't know make a political declaration, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
absolutely. And I think that some of it can just sort of sit so deeply in you that it like distills itself into things that you write, and
Yeah,
that's what happened whenever I wrote Heaven I'm in Heaven, because it was just um like I just think that that adaptation of Angels in America is so deeply like well written, well acted and everything, and it's just so profound. Um and it's just not it's something that I couldn't really escape writing about. And you know, like especially with um like the rights of queer people in so many different parts of the world being under threat or actively being under attack right now.
yeah,
Um, it is sort of like a dream about like, the ultimate liberation of that. Um, and sort of using the Angel Bethesda as a figure of that, it felt very, very apt to sort of use that as like the pinning point of the EP. Because I think that the entire like um throughout the EP, each song has its own sort of comments about identity and in all of its different forms and sort of, you know, finding security and safety in your identity and in whatever form that might be. Um, and I just think that that phrase sort of encapsulates it for me.
perfect. Thanks very much for your time, Con. Is there anything you would like to
Absolutely.
add before we wrap up? Anything you feel we haven't covered that people should know? Stuff like that.
No, I think there was plenty covered there.
Perfect. And do you want to just plug your socials and all that?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, um, everything is just under at Conn Thornton. Like that's it. Like Twitter, which is kind of, a dying form now. Like Instagram, TikTok, whatever else. Like it's all just that. And
I think you mean X.
I will never. He dead names his child. I dead name his website.
I think X is okay if to use if you're lambasting it. I think if
Yeah,
you're like I think if you're what's I forget there's like some the everything app. People say X the everything app when they're trying to be derisive, and
yeah,
I think it's good to
yeah,
show be used in a derisive context.
yes. Ah, yes. The app where comedy is legal.
Yeah. Hey, there's no one funnier than Elon Musk. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
If there's any tech billionaires listening to this, fund us, please.
yes. Nobody makes me laugh more than him.
If Elon Musk for some reason really liked your music and offered you like I don't know a grand a minute to only release it exclusively on X, would you do it? A grand a minute. Come on, be real.
No.
Okay,
I
you gotta
I
have your
would
principles.
I would just tell him to get fucked. Like,
Oh, I actually have one final question. I just thought
oh
of
yeah,
now. I just want to ask about we were talking about Greta Gerwig, and this is something I might get your opinion on. This isn't for anyone other
yeah.
than me. Yeah, I was wondering, how do you feel about the direction of her filmography now? Because obviously she did Barbie,
Hmm.
now she's going to be doing the Chronicles of Narnia reboot. Some people feel like, okay, I would prefer to do more originals a la Lady Bird. Other people are happy with whatever she does. Do you have any
Yeah.
opinions on that?
I didn't know about the Chronicles of Narnia actually.
She's doing it for Netflix. I don't know if it's a
Oh,
miniseries or a film, but
okay.
she's doing some Chronicles of Narnia thing for, and the Aslan the Lion is being
Hmm.
played by Meryl Streep,
Okay. Okay. It's
which sounds
interesting.
like Mad Libs, but
Yeah. No, like honestly, I was initially sort of part skeptical but part intrigued with how Barbie could have gone, and
yeah,
I loved it. I thought it was a great
yeah,
film.
I thought it was good. Yeah,
Um like I don't think it's anywhere near as good as like Frances Ha or
no,
well, that's not quite her film, but it's kind of is as well. Um well, she wrote it actually, so yeah, it is her film, but she didn't direct it. And like Lady Bird is just like so high up there for me. I feel like because she's just hit those highs so early in her career, I feel like, you know, she can do whatever she wants.
you know,
She is the ultimate right to do whatever she wants now.
People were pissed that she didn't get the best director nomination for Barbie. I think Little Women, she was so in for that
Oh,
because like I was watching Little Women, like I saw that in the cinema, and I
yeah.
was like, oh my God, like all the characters she has to juggle, all this stuff. I thought she did a great job, and no one
It's
acknowledged it. I thought that was
it's
like
a
her best
brilliant
film.
film.
That's
It's
my
a
personal favorite film of hers.
Yeah, it's a brilliant film. Like I watched it again a couple of months ago and it was just I forgot just how good it is. So and she just did such a good job with it with like balancing two different timelines and I felt like, initially you could think that maybe like there was something quite heavy-handed of like using two different color filters for the past and the present, but I just think like it hits you like a fucking jackhammer whenever the sister dies. Like it's
Yeah.
just like it's just used so well, and yeah, I do think that she should have got a lot more recognition for that because it's just such an amazing adaptation.
Although the internet brain rot has kind of ruined that scene in the attic for me. Women, yeah,
Oh,
that part.
oh God.
I just think of the memes. I'm like, I'll be real with you. I'm not even gonna lie. I don't even really get why that scene was being done. I was like, oh, okay,
It's just yeah, it's just like the like cherry picked one bit, but like it's just
yeah,
such a it's a great piece of writing. Um, because I just remember like whenever I was upon rewatch, she just did the women bit, and I was like, and then it descended into her being like, "I'm so lonely," and I was like, "Oh God, this is
yeah.
I forgot how good this is."
Never doubt Greta Gerwig. Thanks
No,
very much for your time, Con, and
yeah,
enjoy the
absolutely
rest of
no,
your day.
that's great. Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Right, bye.
Thank you for listening to that episode of Post-Burnout.com interviews. We're an independent venture run by yours truly, and as I said at the beginning, liking, rating, subscribing, and sharing really helps us out a lot. If you're feeling extra generous, we do have a PayPal donation link in the episode description, but don't feel obligated, of course. We've also begun releasing occasional exclusive episodes on Spotify, so subscribe there if you'd be interested in hearing those. Thanks again for listening, and see you next time.